This is the inside of the Auto-Sleeper Corinium FB. If I firstly move to the main control panel, you can see just here that we have along the top here the external temperature. We'll get this little picture of the sun appearing every time the solar panel is active. Beside that we have a lightning strike just letting us know that we're currently hooked up to mains supply. We have the humidity in the center, and then on the right hand side here the internal temperature, time, Auto-Sleeper logo, and then the date along the bottom. To turn the 12 volt on, just press here. Directly beneath that we then have water pump on and off. We need the water pump on so we can get water out of the taps, flush the toilet and fill the boiler if it's been drained. Next we have water levels, so how much water is in the fresh tank and how much water is in the waste tank. And then we have power levels, so condition of leisure battery, condition of vehicle battery, how many amps we're either using or have coming in depending, the mains current and the solar current just there. Along this side here at the top here we have the main isolator for the internal lights. These can all be turned on and off on their own switches. If they are these touch ones, once they've been turned off they do need to be touched to be turned back on again. Beneath that we have awning light and the entrance light just there. Battery selection just beneath that, so L for leisure, V for vehicle. Whichever battery you have selected on this control panel is the battery that you are charging from the main supply when you are hooked up. Settings menu just here on the little picture of the cog. So within this we have power settings. Best to leave the batteries in smart mode. So at the moment you'll see the main supply is charging the leisure battery and the solar is charging the vehicle, and then after a period of time they would then switch. Automatic tank fill, so we need this on if we're going to be using the whale filling system on the outside of the motorhome. Tank heaters on and off just here. So if you are using the motorhome in extremely cold climate, just make sure these are on to avoid any frost damage occurring to the fresh and waste tanks. Lights that will come on when you turn the power on. So at the moment the main lights will come on but the awning light will not. You can change these depending on personal preference. Key beeps on and off. Water level alarms for the fresh and the waste tank on and off. Set how bright this backlight is and how quickly this screen times out when it's not being touched. Set the time and date. And then we have the Truma heater settings just here if you want to be using timers. At the moment you will see that we're just set in manual mode just here, so we would then just use the Truma control panel just here. If we want to use the timers, just press this one here and we'll then come across to the timers just here. Select what power source you want to be using just down here. So we have, if I go back to the beginning, with a little lightning strike, main supply using 1 kilowatt. Main supply using 2 kilowatts, so just dependent on the ampage of the site that you're on. Gas on its own, so if you're not hooked up. And then we have dual fuel, so we have a mixture of gas and mains at 1 kilowatt, or a mixture of gas and mains at 2 kilowatts. And then we go back round to main supply at 1 kilowatt. So once you've picked your power source, come across to your timers. You'll see you have timers 1, 2, 3 and 4. And then we have the heating and the hot water. So let's say for the first timer that we want the heating to come on, and we want it to heat up to 21 degrees. We want the hot water in eco mode, which will give us water temperature of about 40 degrees. And then we set when we would like this to come on. So let's say we want this first timer to come on at 6 o'clock in the morning. And then we go for the next one, and again we then do that. And then to activate them, just press this one just here. If I now turn this one back off again, there we go. If you're going to use it in manual mode, just push back to this bit here and then come across to the Truma control panel. To turn it on, just press the button just here, and you'll see we get a series of icons, and then as I begin to rotate, they will begin to flash. So if we start with the first icon just here, this one is for your heating, and if I now click on it, heating is off, and all we now do is we just rotate it and pick whatever temperature we would like it to be inside the motorhome, and it'll go right the way up to 30 degrees. Once you've decided, just click, and that will store it in, and you'll see a little flame appeared above just there. That little flame just represents the heating system. It's just letting you know that you've set a parameter. Whenever the heating is in operation, it will begin to flash, and it will continue to flash until it's achieved the temperature you have asked. If I now move across to the next icon, this one is for hot water, and again if I now click on it, hot water is off, and if we now rotate, we can heat hot water in eco mode, which what I just said a moment ago is about 40 degrees in temperature. We can heat it in hot, which will give us a temperature of about 60 degrees, and we can also perform a boost on the boiler. The boost was designed for mainly if there's going to be more than one of you having showers in quick succession of each other, or if you just want hot water extremely quickly. If you do perform the boost and the heating's running, it will turn the heating off, as it needs to use that extra power to perform it. So if I now put it onto eco, you'll see the heating will come back on, and the hot water icon will continue to flash until again it's achieved the temperature you have asked. Next we have power source, which we just explained in the timer part just there. So we have mains electricity at 2 kilowatts, mains electricity at 1 kilowatt, dual fuel, so a mixture of gas and mains at 2, and a mixture of gas and mains at 1. In the dual fuel mode, it will only consume gas as it's required, and then lastly, gas on its own. Circulation fan for the heating system. So at the moment the fan is in eco mode. It can be turned up to high, and if you do turn off heating and hot water and go back to it, you can also use it to vent. Very similar to the timer over here, we can set a timer in this. It is only one timer though. You cannot set any more than that on this part. If you're going to set multiple timers, you will have to do it on the main control panel just here. So again, we just literally pick a begin time, and then when you would like the timer to end, and then same again, you just pick what you would like on within that timer. Timer on and off just by rotating here, turn it on, the timer icon will come up there, and now within that time period those settings would apply. If I now return to it again, we can turn it back off, and when we go back in, obviously alter it again. clock set just here. And then lastly, the settings menu. So within this we have offset, which is just for the thermostat just here. So if you don't think it's quite correct, you can just slightly adjust it. Temperature, just if you prefer it displayed in Celsius or Fahrenheit. Brightness of this screen. 12 or 24 hour clock. Language. Index, more for the technicians, it just lets them know what software this is running. And then lastly, full factory reset. From time to time you will get error codes appear on this control panel. So at the moment we're running on main supply, so if I ran outside and pulled the mains lead out, it would automatically flash up on the screen letting us know that it's lost main supply. It will be a series of numbers and letters, and then within the manual it will tell you exactly what the problem is. Other error codes you can get are if you're trying to run it on gas and you have no gas available, etc. And also you can get error codes if you turn this control panel off before turning this control panel off. So if I now do that, you'll now see we have W255H. This is the error code for I have lost 12 volt. So if we now turn the 12 volt on, the error code will just automatically disappear as we've rectified the problem. So 9 times out of 10, as long as you rectify the problem, the error code will just disappear. If this isn't the case, just go back to where the warning triangle is and double click on it. It will sometimes say no error and then disappear. If that still doesn't work, if you still have the heating and hot water running, just turn them all off, because it can reassess a lot faster when it's not trying to do lots of things at once. If this still doesn't work, I then always suggest the good old turn it off, turn it back on again. And the way we turn this off is just by holding the button in here. And if this still doesn't work, I then always suggest a factory reset, as this may be all it takes. This Truma control panel can also be controlled via an app. If you are going to use the app, you need to go to your app store, find the Truma app and download it onto your device. Once you've done this, make sure your Bluetooth is turned on and then launch the app. It will firstly ask you to come to the iNet box, which is just located in the overhead locker just here. You can see it flashing away just here. It will ask you to press the Bluetooth button, which is just located here. It will then send the Bluetooth signal out and you will then be able to connect up to it. Once you've connected up, you will then be able to control your heating and your hot water locally via Bluetooth. If you want to control it from further afield, what you can do is purchase a pay-as-you-go SIM card, and it just inserts where my finger is here. You can then register this through the app, and then you can control your heating and your hot water from much further afield. If we now come down to this bench seat just here and I remove the cushions, if I now lift up, we have the location of the leisure battery just here, and then tucked just here is the main 12 volt fuse for the battery. We then also have some 12 volt fuses just here. They are all labelled up and mainly correspond to parts that are on the outside of the motorhome, like marker lights, etc. The consumer unit is located here, and we have the trip switches just here. So we have the 3 individual MCBs, the main RCD and the test button just there. They are labelled up and will correspond in the Auto-Sleeper handbook. So if something's not working on main supply, just come to check to see whether or not you've tripped at this point here. We then have the 12 volt fuses just here, and again they are all numbered up and will correspond in the Auto-Sleeper handbook. If a fuse is to blow, you will get an illumination underneath it to let you know. So again, if something's not working on 12 volt, just check to see if you have blown a fuse. Up the top here we have two isolator switches for components that use mains electricity. So we have this amber one just here, which is for the heating and hot water system. So if you are running the Truma system on main supply and you turn this off, you will get an error code because you have basically isolated the mains at this point here. Quite frankly, this one can be left alone. It is more for maintenance than anything else. We then have the green one just here, which is for the battery charger. And again, we want to be able to charge both vehicle and leisure battery when we're hooked up to the main supply. So again, this can also be left alone. This will illuminate when reverse polarity is connected to the motorhome. This can sometimes be found on some continental sites. And then lastly, in the corner just here, we have full system shutdown. So if you're not going to be using the motorhome for a prolonged period of time, you can press this button just here and it will then shut the back end of the motorhome down and kill any residual draw on the leisure battery. Underneath the other bench seat is storage, and tucked in the corner just there is the safe. Up here we have the controls for the satellite dish on the roof of the motorhome. You will see that in this locker just here where the iNet box is, that is the control box for it. You do not need to turn it on and off in here, as it can all be done on the controls just here. So if I now press just here, it will then fire the system up. Just keep pressing this to move to different satellites. Obviously we're in the UK, so we want to be using Astra 2. So as you can see, it's starting to flash, and once it's found the satellite, it will then go to a solid green light. And then it's just a matter of, if you have a TV with a built-in satellite decoder, running the SAT cable from here to the back of the TV. Obviously if you do not have that, you will need to run a lead to a decoder and then from the decoder to the television. As you can now see, it's gone to a solid green light, indicating that it has located the satellite. To put the satellite dish back down again, just hold the button. And then let go, and it will then drop back down. Sink just here. Extractor fan just here. So we have 2 fan speeds and 2 light levels. Beneath that we have the electric hot plate, so this will work when we're hooked up to main supply, and it operates just here. We then have the 3 gas rings, and that is push, twist and press the igniter. Beneath that we have the grill. and then at the bottom the oven. Beneath the oven we have storage. You may just be able to see just here where my finger is, there is a gas isolation tap which is for the cooker. Quite frankly, all the gas isolation taps can be left on. I always say they are more for maintenance. If you do smell gas in the motorhome, go to the gas tank and go to the emergency shut-off valve underneath it and turn it off at that point there. We then have storage. Cutlery drawer. Freestanding table just here. And then we have the microwave just here, like the electric hot plate, will work when hooked up to the main supply. The isolator switch for it is just here. Do make sure that all contents are removed for travel. And then we have quick start, stop just here. Then we have power settings, etc. Beneath that is the fridge freezer. To turn the unit on, just press here. This is an automatic model, so as long as you are on A for auto, it will find the best power source it can for you. So because we're hooked up to main supply at the moment, it's put us directly onto mains with a little picture of the 2-pin plug just here. If I now went outside and pulled the mains lead out, it would then automatically attempt to fire itself up onto gas. And as soon as we start the engine of the motorhome, it will then automatically go over to 12 volt maintain to keep itself cold whilst on the move. We can take it out of auto if we want, so I can manually put it onto gas. I can manually put it onto 12 volt maintain. It's going to beep and we're going to get a little error just here because the engine's currently not running. This is the noise it will make as well if it's tried to light itself on gas and failed to make the fridge attempt to light itself again. Just press the button just here. But quite frankly, auto is the easiest option to have it on. This one here is for the unit's anti-condensation jacket. This needs to be on if you are using the motorhome in very warm temperatures. This will basically stop a build-up of condensation at the back of the unit, which would then run down the back of it and form a puddle beneath it. In the winter months, it does not need to be on. Temperature control just here, so the more blue bars, the colder the unit is. And then turn the unit back off again just here. Do make sure you're doing this, because if you leave it on and you're not hooked up to the main supply, it will then automatically go over to gas and deplete your gas tank. If we now come into the bedroom area, we have the wardrobe just here. In the wardrobe there is a switch, and this switch here just turns the speakers off at the back here. So if somebody's listening to the radio in the lounge area and somebody's in the bedroom and does not want to listen to anything, it can be isolated on this switch. If I now lift up the bed, we have plenty of storage beneath. And we also have the location of the Truma boiler. The boiler's drain valve is also located underneath here, and it is an automatic valve. So if it's in the closed position and the temperature in here drops below about 3-4 degrees, the valve will automatically open and drop all the water out of the boiler to frost protect itself. This is the valve just here. If we are going to manually drain the boiler down, what we need to do is come to the blue diamond on the top of it and twist it. When we twist it, a blue button will pop out at the base of the unit. So if I now twist this, you'll see the button pop out, and it's now dropping all the water out of the boiler. Do make sure the water pump's turned off, because if it's not, all it's going to do is try to frantically refill itself back up again. To close the drain, twist, push the button back in, fill up the fresh water tank, turn on the water pump, and it will begin priming the boiler back up again. I always suggest that when draining down for full winterization, that you also open up all the taps within the motorhome as well, because this will release any airlocks in the system and help it drain down. So when you come to re-priming the system, you will need to open all the taps. They'll cough, they'll splutter as they force the air out. Once they're then running freely on hot and cold, close back up again, and then the system will fully re-prime itself. If the boiler self-drains itself on the frost protection, all that will happen is the blue button will just pop out at the base of the unit just here, and all you'll need to do is push it back in to reset it. If it will not stay in, it's just too cold in the motorhome, and you'll need to turn the heating on to allow it to reset. The only time we're touching the blue button on the top here is when we are manually draining down. Also in here is the pressure switch for the water pump. So if you're finding that you're getting a lot of pump overrun when you're closing your taps, you can slightly adjust this. If you are going to do this, it is literally tiny little movements. Do not twist it like anything, otherwise you will throw it completely out of sync. Gas isolation taps just there for the fridge and for the heating and hot water. These little infills just here just fill the gap at the top of the mattress. As we now come into the washroom, we have the shower cubicle just here. When the light is turned on, this will also turn on the extractor fan. Do make sure that the shower screen is secured for travel. Basin, and the toilet. To open up to the cassette itself, just slide the grey lever across and then push the flush on the blue button just here. Do make sure the water pump is on, or otherwise it will not flush. Level indicator for the cassette just here, so this will rotate round to red when it needs emptying, and then close back up again just here. If this has been left open and you try to remove the cassette from the outside, it will not come out. So if you do feel resistance, just make sure that nobody has left this open. The front bed is extremely easy to make. It is just a matter of slightly lifting up and then pulling both sections across so they meet in the middle, and then it's just a matter of dropping the cushions in, and as you can see, it's as easy as that. As you can see, there's a slight gap just here, and that is what the infills are for. As you can see, both seats rotate round, and they rotate round by pushing down on the red levers just here. The driver's seat is more tricky to rotate round because you have the steering wheel in the way and also the handbrake. To make it easier, I personally always put the motorhome into gear and then drop the handbrake to get this out of the way, and it then makes it a lot easier to rotate the chair around.